main progress has been achieved.
In the ongoing conflict between Ukraine and Russia, American and Ukrainian military leaders are scrambling to devise a new strategy to bolster Kiev's position. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelenskyy is on a whirlwind, quickly put together visit to the United States. He's meeting with President Joe Biden and senior congressional leaders as America's interest in this war begins to fade. After a failed months-long counteroffensive, President Zelenskyy was rushed to Washington for these urgent discussions. He'll be meeting with senior administration officials in the White House. He's also hoping to demonstrate solidarity and garner crucial support, both on the battlefield as well as in Capitol Hill.
And that's significant. Ukraine is gradually becoming less dependent on aid, and we are moving to the right direction, and I want to discuss with the President how to strengthen it, especially enhancing our air defense and ability to destroy Russia's logistics. Our goals for 24 are clear: take away Russia's superiority and disrupt their offensive operations.
Complicating matters for Ukraine is the dwindling Republican support for the continued American financial assistance to Kiev. The situation is dire. There are concerns that a prolonged stalemate in the war could tip the advantage in favor of Russian President Vladimir Putin. President Joe Biden has emphasized the need to prevent Putin from gaining ground, urging Congress for additional funding to give Ukraine. But Republicans have blocked that effort, prompting Biden to remark that the Republicans are actually helping Putin win.
But without supplemental funding, we're rapidly coming to an end of our ability to help Ukraine respond to the urgent operational demands that it has. Putin is banking on the United States failing to deliver for Ukraine. We must prove him wrong.
The Russian military, having faced setbacks in its attempt to try and seize Kiev back in 2022 when this war started, they are now regrouping and strengthening their forces. Moscow's arsenal boasts more troops, more ammunition and missiles, which have been further augmented by a fleet of battlefield drones, many of which have been supplied by Iran. This evolving dynamic on the battlefield adds to the urgency for the quest for a new war strategy, both by Ukraine and by America. To enhance military advice and support, the United States is dispatching a 3-star general to Kiev. It is underlining its commitment to finding a viable path for giving Ukraine the upper hand on the battlefield. War games, which were scheduled in Wiesbaden, Germany, next month, aim to hammer out the details of this new strategy. Both American and Ukrainian military officers are actively participating in those exercises due to begin next month. However, a significant challenge arises from divergent views on what is the best way forward for Ukraine to regain the upper hand. The United States advocates for a conservative strategy, which is centered on securing the existing territory, fortifying Ukrainian positions, and then gradually building up supplies throughout the coming year. In contrast, the Ukrainians are eager to adopt an offensive stance, either on the ground or through long-range strikes. They are hoping to capture global attention and shift the narrative in Ukraine's favor. The stakes, of course, cannot be more enormous. Without a new strategy and without additional funding, American officials are afraid that Ukraine could lose this war and lose it quickly. This concern has been exacerbated by the erosion of Republican support on Capitol Hill. In fact, some Republicans are questioning openly the efficacy of giving more financial aid to Ukraine. President Biden underscored the flailing international interest in supporting Ukraine, framing this as crucial for thwarting Putin's ambitions. The United States has been a key contributor, providing over $100 billion in military and financial aid to Ukraine over the last couple of years since this war began. However, with a growing number of Republican lawmakers opposed to additional spending, there is demand for a clear and effective strategy before more monies can be allocated. This places additional pressure on Ukraine to comprehend the precarious nature of America's purse strings being tightened, and also perhaps to temper down the expectations of the Ukrainian public. A consensus is also emerging within the US military for a hold and build strategy. This approach emphasizes securing existing territory and then investing in Ukraine's own ability to produce weapons over 2024. The rationale is to enhance self-sufficiency and also to prepare Kiev to repel any potential Russian advance. If Ukraine is successful in creating a credible threat that could lead to meaningful negotiations by the end of next year or in early 2025. Simultaneously, Ukrainian officials are also exploring strategies to build on their successful deep strikes into Crimea, which happened last September and October. They are seeking innovative ways to keep Russia off balance. Sometimes they're targeting arms factories, weapons depots, and even ammunition transportation equipment. While details of all of these proposals are undisclosed at this stage, insiders describe the plan as very daring and focused on securing symbolic victories. American officials are cautioning that without a shift in strategy, 2024 could be exactly like 1916, the deadliest year of World War I. There could be significant loss of Ukrainian lives and also minimal changes in the battle lines. Ukrainian hospitals, for example, are already strained. Ambulances are shuttling back and forth from the front lines throughout the year. Now it has become very apparent, both to Ukrainian strategists and also to their American counterparts, that the counteroffensive, the famed counteroffensive through much of 2023, has been a failure. Although the official number of war casualties are yet undisclosed, officials say there are very, very steep losses running into tens of thousands. The 2023 counteroffensive was an attempt by Ukraine to try and reshape its army in the image of the US Army. That, of course, did not go down well. It drew criticism for what was similarly unsuccessful American attempts in Vietnam, Iraq, and in Afghanistan. Amid these setbacks, the deep strikes into Crimea were perhaps the only standout positive development for Ukraine. American strategists believe that building on that success, these deep strikes into Crimea and other Russian territory, is crucial for Ukraine's prospects in the coming year, even if much of that energy is directed towards rebuilding Ukraine's forces. To enhance coordination, General Christopher Cavalli, who's the top American commander in Europe, is taking a more prominent role. He's going to be liaising with Ukrainian officials. The Pentagon is also deploying Lieutenant General Antonio Aguto, who commands support for Ukraine from a base in Germany. He's going to be spending extended periods of time in Kiev. General Aguto's role involves working more closely with Ukraine's military leadership and also to try and refine the advice and support that's being offered by the United States. Now, despite substantial investments in tanks and advanced military training, Russian forces are maintaining control over nearly 20% of Ukraine. This is territory which Russia never had prior to the start of this war in February 2022. The main challenge now for Ukraine and its biggest benefactor, America, is to try and find a strategy that balances self-sufficiency, resilience, and creativity against what is an increasingly resurgent Russian military. The clock is ticking, and the world is watching closely to see how the narrative of this conflict, both on the battlefield and in the mainstream media, unfolds over the course of 2024.